Greetings! Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Channel Otherdoc. I'm Jim. I use he, him pronouns. And today we are playing Space 1889 Red Sands, the Savage Worlds edition of Space 1889. I have never actually gotten a chance to play this ever, or look at it even very much, so this will be interesting, as I'm just going to dive right in and try to run it, because, of course, this is what I do to myself. Let's go around, say hi to everybody, and see who they are and who they're playing. Let us start with D. Hello.
Hi, y'all. Sorry, I was totally prepared. Hey, y'all. I'm prepared for this. I'm D, or Krux as my as you see me hanging out in the Twitch chat, and today I'm playing a High Martian Dressadilla, and it'll be lots of fun. I get to play Martian.
Yes, excellent. Good.
She, her yes. I get to use, I use she, her pronouns, and so does Dressadilla. So it'll be fun.
Very cool. And now let us head over to Kat. Hello.
Hi, I'm Kat at Cleric of Cord. I will be playing Elspeth Hunsford, a very proper young scholar, and we both use she, her pronouns, and I have never played Savage Worlds in any form or shape, so I'm just as new at this as Jim is, so let's have some fun.
Yay! I will say, in fairness, I have played plenty of Savage Worlds, but it's just Space 1889. I still haven't quite. That's one of those systems I just haven't quite gotten at yet. But we'll give it a shot. Now let us head over to Spencer. Hello.
Hello. I'm Spencer, as our lovely GM has said. I'll be playing as Dmitry Stanislavski. He is a Russian actor turned diplomat, and it is he, him pronouns for both characters. I'm excited to dive into this because Victorian space travel, that seems fun.
Yes. And finally, Rock, hello. Muted.
I am, everybody's ready, right? So, hey, so I'm Rock, and I'm going to be playing Wrighton Ron, a journalist for the local paper, and both he and I use he, him pronouns.
Poor Wrighton. Poor fellow. Anyway, we're going to, before we dive in here, like we do with most games on this channel, we're going to be using the X card, the N card, and the O card. If we hit something that's crossing a line for one of us, any of us can type an X in the Zoom video chat or anywhere else, or make an X symbol, and we will back up and do something else. If something happens that we're okay having in the game, but we don't want a graphic description of it, we can type an N in the Zoom chat, and then we can fade to black on it, or we can put it behind a veil, so it'll be there, but we won't go into detail. Finally, if we're exploring a topic or an area of roleplay that's particularly intense for us, but we want to keep going anyway, we can put an O in the chat to let us know we're okay, and that we're all good to keep piling on the drama. Something else we can do is put an O with a question mark after it when we're moving into a difficult topic, or if we say or we do something and then think, maybe that might have been a little too much. Then everyone else can respond to that, again with an X, an N, or an O to let us know if we're still doing okay. So, Mars is what is now deemed in the year of our Lord 1889 the crown jewel of the British Empire. Queen Victoria rather enjoys going over to other places and helping them with their problems, let's say, and as do most of the many of the European nations, and Mars was no exception. It was only just like a couple of decades ago that Thomas Edison came up to Mars on the first ether ship, and managed to make start making trade, and then they brought some Martians back with them. These things happened. Time goes on. They discover they discover things about ether. They discover a type of wood that only grows on Mars that is capable of apparently storing this stuff. are having the appropriate reaction. I don't know the science, but apparently there are we now have these things called ether ships that we can use to cross from planet to planet, and there are now colonies on, and most of the major countries now have colonies on Mars and Venus and Mercury and on the Moon, and they also have interests out in the asteroid belt. So lots going on. This, in and of itself, the main thrust of the Savage Worlds edition of Space 1889 is the Red Planet, and there is rather a lot going on politically. As when it comes down to it, many different folks competing to do different things. We will get into that. We will unfurl that as this goes on. But we're going to start on an airship. We are on we are on Mars, and the airship is currently in transit. So the main one of the capital cities there that is controlled at this point by the British is Syrtis Major. Now, currently, this airship is part of a peace delegation that is happening. There's a little bit of a convoy sort of going on because this ship is the one in the middle that contains all of the important delegates, and then there are ships on either side. There's a British gunship. Has also been allowed to be there is a Martian vessel. There are a few different Martian factions. So the Martian vessel to the outside is one from the Boreocertis League, and they're to be meeting another vessel from the Onotrian Empire at some point, which will sort of be kind of joining them on their little journey here, because mostly there has been conflict primarily between the English and the Onotrian Empire, run by High Martians. There are a number of different kinds of Martians, as we'll perhaps get into here. And there has been found relatively recently a site where there was an ancient temple, the Temple of Volcan, and at least that is what they believe it to be, uncovered with a number of artifacts as well. And the archaeologist who uncovered it is actually on this journey, I believe. Or would he actually still be at the site? That's an interesting idea. Perhaps. Well, let's as we go around here, we'll sort of see whether or not you see the archaeologist in question is a Professor Michael Francis Eddington III, who helped uncover this temple. And as part of this whole thing as there are portions of this that are going to be improvised. Don't tell anyone. I am going to do that thing that some GMs do, which is ask questions. And so the first question I have is for Elspeth, who assists the professor, and has likely been on this dig. But perhaps we can. Although if need be, I can come back to that in a moment. But it's just a question of whether he sent you ahead or whether you're or whether he's going to be here with you on the voyage. Because we can do this either way. but because he might still be at the dig at this point, possibly. It's basically.
I think we're on our way back. He was at the dig, recovered the artifact. They needed to return it, wanted to be part of the ceremony, and then going back to the dig after this.
Well, yeah, this is actually, the ceremony is going to be happening at the temple. And so they're actually going from Certus Major to the site of the temple.
Then yes, he would still
yeah.
be there. He would still
Okay.
be at the temple, and Elspeth is going to join him there.
All right, excellent. Very good, very good. So this place has a number of there's sort of a party basically going on this massive sky ship. So this part of the sky ship looks rather like in some ways it's dressed up like a grand ballroom. It's not exactly a luxury thing per se, but it's dressed up as best as it can. As it sails through the air. This is probably one of the biggest ships in the sky right now. So there are a number of folks here who a number of you are going to be sort of recognizing, mingling with, what have you. I feel as though Elspeth, as we have previously stated, is with the sort of with the UK contingent. Here, the ambassador from the UK, who is, there are a number of base embassies in Certus Major, and the ambassador from the UK is Baron Vivian, who is somewhat. I feel as though he has a reputation for being somewhat foppish, but it is. But he does seem to be a relatively ruthless negotiator, as as these things go. But he's sort of trying to take care of everyone on the UK side of things. As we continue around, we're going to shift perspective briefly. As we're sort of looking over this place, there's it's packed with food. There's a little band sort of in the corner playing. You have some people kind of near it dancing. You have a lot of people sort of standing and talking. As we're going to sort of float by briefly this delegation, we're going to see each of you, and I'm just going to sort of go in order and find out sort of give a description, what you're currently doing, and if you're talking to anyone who's with you. You have choices from all the various countries and things that I mentioned earlier, but just the quick rundown is we have the UK, Russia, Germany, France, Japan, America, the Boreocertus League, and the Onotrian Empire. I'm going to start, I think, let us go in reverse order as we're sorting this out. We're going to start with our reporter, Wrighton. Whereabouts are you, and what are you doing, and what do we see?
So I think Wrighton is he's kind of drifting around through the different delegations, pausing. He'll stop for a moment or two and kind of listen in on the conversations that are going on. Try to see if he can pick up on anything as far as political objectives, whether anything interesting is of note.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to ask you to roll an 8-sided die for me. 4. Okay. France. Okay. The thing that you're going to possibly pick up is going to be by the French delegation. I'm going to ask you to make another roll in a moment that involves listening to people. But I'll tell you first who it is you know that you're nearby. The French delegate is General Georges Boulanger. And he is currently, from what you understand, he is supposed to be on Earth running for president in France, but has been having some issues. He is hanging out there with his mistress Marguerite Broussais. This is kind of an open secret.
They're French. What else would you expect?
Yeah, I mean, this is often how this kind of thing works. So I'm going to ask you in a moment to, as you've kind of been checking with these very sort of flamboyant figures, the general in particular, who apparently has a number of campaigns under his belt. But first we're going to pan the camera as you're sort of intently watching what they're doing and trying to pick up on something. We're going to pan the camera over to the Russian delegation. And we see, or at least past it, so that we can see Dmitry Stanislavski. Tell us, what do you look like, and what is it that we see you doing?
Yeah, Dmitry is in garb that's probably not unfamiliar to him from shows that he did back on Earth. He's wearing a stereotypical, like, Russian military uniform of the time, just to look a little more prepared and proper for something of this size. He's probably, rather than talking with the Russian ambassador, he's probably actually over talking with the Martian delegation, because he knows Hyenotrian and he wants to practice. So he might actually be conversing with the High Martian in our party, and we'll get to that later. But he's also wearing on top of the uniform like a deep blue duster jacket of sorts. And if it every now and then when it sweeps, you will see. Well, my question would be: is weaponry allowed on this ship?
It is heavily discouraged.
Okay.
And you're not expected to be carrying. It's one of those things they're only going to question it if you've got if you're openly armed, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess in that case.
Or if you're American, they probably won't question that as much.
Yeah.
Because apparently, if you're American, you have a gun. They understand that's how Americans are born. Apparently.
Yeah. Okay. I guess in that case, he would probably have his revolver that he brought with him back in whatever form of like a room that, whatever the accommodations would be for the Russian diplomats, he would have it back in that room. And so he's just talking. He's mingling. So.
Awesome. Yeah, it's not going to take you too terribly long to, if you need to run and grab it, it's not going to take too long.
Okay.
It's a big ship, but it's not that big.
Right. Right.
But yeah, you are there with right. He's not right with you right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you're your ambassador, Sergei Chekhov, is off is off doing a bit of mingling himself. Right now, he is with the. He's actually talking to the ambassador from Japan, and so there he's trying to just sort of asking some pointed questions because they don't have Japan doesn't have quite as much of a presence, but they are trying to.
Mm-hmm.
But they have more than some of the folks who are up on Mars.
Okay.
But it's just sort of there's a certain amount of questioning that is going on.
Sure.
With respect to these things. So, let's see. We're going to continue around as we're seeing things. We're going to pan across to where Elspeth is. So what do we see, and what are you doing?
Elspeth is a rather mousy young woman. She's got a lot of hair that's piled up on top of her head, but is already starting to fall down in little tendrils and curls that have escaped the bun, because no matter how hard she tries, it's going to end up that way. She does have a pair of spectacles on, and she's dressed in what might be, for the times, a working woman's outfit. She's not dressed the way the other ladies would be. Hers is much plainer, a jacket with a shirtwaist dress and a skirt. And she is sitting on a chair rather primly with a book in front of her and her nose buried in her book. And on the chair next to her is a platter of snacks, of little finger foods, something like that. And so she's just sitting there kind of ignoring everything that's going on, reading her book and occasionally reaching over and taking a bite.
This is good. She's
met the Baron. She's not impressed with the Baron, found him a little patronizing.
Yeah, he can be. He quite easily can be.
Yes, and she has no time for brainless twits, and so she's just trying to be as unobtrusive as possible. She has to be there because her absence would be remarked upon, but she's not going to be involved if she can help it.
Yeah. He basically was he basically was saying that he was going to if you need anything, please don't hesitate to don't hesitate to let him know.
Yes, he came by her cabin to make sure that she was aware of that if he would be more than happy to make sure that she was under his protection, and he then decided she didn't need his protection when she pulled the derringer on him, and then tucked it back away in her skirt pocket. He leaves her alone now.
Yeah. Well, he only got the title about 3 years ago, so it's still a bit of an odd fit. But these things happen. But as we, what are you reading about right now?
She is currently reading up on on Martian history. What's one of the more current obscure texts that has been recently translated into English from the original Martian, about their history and that type of thing.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Yes, okay, and now let's pan over to Dressadea, was it? Is that how I say this?
Yeah, we're gonna go with that.
Okay.
We're going phonetically.
And what do we see? And
Dressadea is a high Martian, so she is not human. She is wandering, attached to the the O Empire, which I can't say because I haven't heard it yet. Enough. She is she's part of their delegation. Seems to be, you know, an attaché of some sort. Formally dressed, but not by what any proper Victorian party would suggest. A long flowing skirt of blue and red, full embroidery with insets, kind of swirls a lot as she walks. But she has a crop top almost, halter crop top that kind of hits just below her ribs and then comes across the tie at the back of her neck. It matching blues and reds. She has and attached to that is like this kind of like almost gossamer sheer off-white kind of sleeves that don't quite, more of a capelet kind of thing, because they don't want they attach, you know, kind of attach at the wrists but not really. They don't want to get in the way of, as she moves her arms, you notice that she has long wings under her arms because she is a high Martian and she can fly. And her long dark hair is kind of pulled back and up in kind of a mess of braids that kind of, you know, it looks very stylish and probably took a whole lot of time and a lot of people put effort into it, but it also is stylishly messy kind of thing. And is conversing with whoever comes across. She's more than happy to speak to anyone.
Awesome. I'll just briefly mention, I did not grab a picture in time, but you're here with Lord Thrinnick, who is just basically one of, you know, is the kind of, you know, the one of the diplomats they sent out here, but is, you know, the one that's on this ship anyway, to kind of deal. But you can pretty much steer him whatever direction you want to as these things go, because he's mostly he's told you basically flat out at the beginning of this that, you know, this could go south at any second. So it's he wants peace, but also he wants
no
to
one of
live.
us trusts the English.
Yes, that's rather the case. And as has been seen tonight, perhaps not even the English here trust the English. So this is
for good reason.
This is a thing that happens. So we have So you and Lord Thrinnick have been talking briefly. You were talking with the Russian ambassador Chekhov, who then handed you off to one of apparently his protege, Dmitry Stanislavski, so you've been sort of chatting. You kind of have noticed, that Thrinnick has kind of been staring daggers across the room from time to time at Count Ramnen, who is here the representative of the Boreal Sirtis League. The Boreal Sirtis League are the one who are the Martians who are in bed with the English, probably in as many ways as one can imagine. So it is. It is one of, and they're much more mercenary. They're run by trade princes, so it's they don't appreciate tradition.
They're canal Martians.
But these things happen. Yeah. My understanding, canal Martians versus high Martians. High Martians are a little bit, little more hair, little darker toned, a little more, or a dark gold rather, where the canal Martians are sort of more light gold. And canal Martians don't have wings. But they all have opposable sort of hands and feet that allow them sort of helpful. That since you've noticed that he's been distracted, so it's basically this Russian delegate has been here talking to you. What has this Russian delegate been talking to you about? I wonder.
It's a good question. Probably it's been a basic conversation of culture and I'm trying to remember. Okay, so your character's name's pronounced what again? I'm sorry.
Dresa D. Yeah.
Dresa D. Okay. You notice like his Hyenotrian needs a lot of work. It's kind of like how when you learned foreign languages in high school and you learned like the strictest, most proper version of it. It's like that. He doesn't know any casual slang of Hyenotrian. It's probably not the most pleasant conversation, but it's passable.
She notices and tries to guide the conversation in a way to help you build confidence in your speech. She does not pull the French thing of saying, "Oh God, you're the Parisian thing specifically of like, please don't, you're murdering our language. Now let's converse in yours because it sounds better." But she wants to encourage you. She notices that most of it isn't so bad that your slang is bad. It's that it's more archaic because you probably learned from a book versus from someone personally. It's like, no, we've changed that term about 300 years ago. This is the word you want.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
But so a little stilted but fun, and she's still quite pleasant. She would probably ask, and your profession, you partake in what?
Oddly enough, I had work as an actor, but I'm not quite sure why the ambassador had me come with him. I can only assume it's... I don't know. I feel very much out of place in this.
Well, they're all just actors as well.
Yes, but they're actors in a different way from what I am. Especially that one, and because you said there was an Italian delegation here?
Actually, the Italians are suspiciously not here.
Well, leave it to Italians.
Yeah.
No.
But we have, if you would like a target, we have UK, Russia, Germany, France, Japan, America, and the two Martian delegations.
Okay. He'll probably just point to... we'll say it's to the German delegation.
You're pointing right at Prime Minister Otto von Bismarck.
It's fine. The Germans are some interesting people, especially him. But I can at least stand the other delegations here.
The minister does seem attached. What is the word? Sour.
I think that would be one word to use, yes.
But have you been on Mars long? Your accent is quite good.
I've been here for at least a few months. Kind of lose track. But the people here have treated me well so far, so I don't really have a reason to complain.
Good.
And I guess one thing you would notice about him, like, I'm not sure how attracted Dresadio would be to humans, but, like, his eyes are almost like an inhuman, like, piercing blue. And he's probably, if you not sure what her judge of attraction is, or, like, attractiveness is, He's probably on the higher end of some of the of most of the human delegates here.
Looks good for a human.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I mean, Dressadia looks really good for a High Martian, but she's not flirting. She's just very much
Oh yeah.
keeping things socially lubricated is the term.
Yeah. Well, the conversation's been pleasant, but I think there's some other Martian languages I need to put into practice as well. If you'll excuse me, and he'll go over to the other Martian delegation just to practice some of the other dialects that he knows.
Ah, okay.
As you turn and walk away, anyone would see, you know, if you had looked back, you would have seen this moment of like, okay.
Because I'm trying to look at some of the other languages he knows. He knows Colon, and in a rare occasion he knows Kalan. So I'm not sure if any of the other Martian delegations would speak either of those languages, but he'd try.
It's possible. One never
Yeah.
knows. So I'm going to shift over. I'd like Rock. I'd like you to make a notice check for me, please.
Yep, sure. One moment.
Okay, excellent. So you got, you got a raise because most times we're looking for a 4. You get to roll is your wild cards. You get to roll your regular die and a wild die, and it's whichever one is higher. So, yeah, you're sort of you've been kind of catching what the sort of this conversation, this sort of back and forth going on between General Boulanger and the American senator who's come up to chat, Senator Thomas Palmer. As this is sort of going on, I would like you to roll a d20 for me. This is not the horrible bad thing that sort of d20 that happens sometimes in Savage Worlds, but something else altogether. I have a different entire table I'm looking at. Okay. So, yeah, as this is kind of happening here, yeah, you see that he's kind of trying to. It's this sort of odd thing, where yeah, it looks like when they're sort of chatting, that just sort of with the this fellow, and like he's brought the senator has like 1 or 2 other people with him. That apparently there is, he's telling him that there is some interest going on from the that there is some interest where the one of the Martian leagues, the Boreocyrtus League, is sort of asking him questions earlier about the senator, and so the general is telling the senator this is sort of like, it's interesting. I think they might want to. One of them, I think, likes you quite a bit. Might want to actually see what you're bringing to the table, And the senator just sort of is shrugging and says, "Well, I mean, I'm pleased to try and open up relations here. I think it's going to be kind of important." Is there some you seem to be attaching some sort of significance to this, sir? Oui, no, it's Let's just say I've been around a few times and I can tell when someone is courting you, you know? Okay, I'll keep an eye out. I think they're looking for something. That's the thing. I don't know if you specifically what they're looking for, but they're trying to. The fact that they are looking around for allies is at this time is interesting, no? Especially since we're all supposed to be at peace soon. Well, you know, no peace is ever permanent, I suppose. I understand. And sort of right, and you're kind of overhearing all of this. Are you actually actively participating in this discussion at all, or trying to, or are you just sort of hanging back and more observing?
I think at least initially, Wrighton is going to be kind of hanging back. He will sort of have his notepad out and will be jotting notes. But he's going to be looking in an opposite direction. The area that we're in, are there windows?
Yes. Yeah, okay. There are windows.
So I think what he's going to be doing is he'll be kind of shorthanding the conversation, but at the same time he's he on his notepad he's got a slight sketch that he had drawn a little bit earlier of some of what could be seen outside. That way it kind of like he's able to cover what he's doing, make it look like he's actually sketching the Martian landscape instead of eavesdropping.
Excellent. So while this is happening, and this is it's a good, you're doing pretty well, just sort of as far as covering it up goes, and you're kind of noticing, as you're sort of drawing lines, you're sort of watching who's watching everyone else, and you're kind of able to observe the movements of folks. Here, you were able to see the exchange between Stanislavski and Dressidea, and the one sort of heading over now to Stanislavski, heading over to talk to Count Remnen and a bunch of a cluster of the English, you're also going to see as the captain comes in, because the ship can fly without him at the helm 24/7, basically. He's coming around, starting to make the rounds. This is Captain Bertram Gladstone, and he's seen quite a bit of things, and as he's going around, you see immediately Prime Minister von Bismarck kind of turns and is just sort of comes forward to almost like just sort of step forward and not to accost him, but almost to like come up and pat him on the shoulder, is trying to be very chummy, and the captain's just sort of like, yeah, yes, very good, and is kind of hanging by him as he heads toward this lady sitting in the corner reading a book, and as Captain Gladstone is just sort of wandering, coming around, and he will stop sort of near Elspeth, and he will look down. Miss Hunsford, I don't mean to I don't mean to intrude, but I just wanted to check in and make sure we've provided all that you need at this point.
She look up from her book, carefully mark it with a finger as she closes it. Looks up. Oh, yes, the canapes are quite delicious. The champagne is top notch, and the company is unique.
And he just sort of smirks, and he kind of gives a sidelong glance to the Prime Minister, who's like standing, just sort of, the German Prime Minister is standing right there. He says, "Quite. I understand that. I understand that that there was talk of. I just wanted to let you know there was talk of a little bit of unrest, as this is near one of the lesser used canals. Of course, the site, but that Colonel Oakes is in securing the area down there, so everything should be all right when we arrive.
And the team, they are safe? Yes.
Yes, indeed, they should. They have.
Oh, wonderful.
They're perfectly fine.
She kind of looks at the Prime Minister and leans forward a little bit. And what is the nature of the disturbance, Captain?
And he says, "Well, the missive we received from Colonel Oakes was simply that there was some issue with the natives round. I believe you're calling that that sort of little tent city that sprung up near the temple, Peacetown."
Something like that. Yes, the professor thought it might engender goodwill among.
And at this point, the Prime Minister will sort of say, well, from one of the things I've been excited to see from everything I've heard, that your Peacetown has become quite the place for bonding betwixt the humans and the Martians, yeah?
She looks up at him like a bug that she just scraped off the bottom of her shoe, and will reply in German, Herr Minister.
And he will hold up.
You are inferring what exactly?
My apologies, perhaps my and he will continue in German. He will say, my apologies, perhaps my English has come off as too familiar. I do humbly beg your forgiveness. And he will as he will bow. And as he just sort of looks around and just says, it simply was something that we had heard of. It's just such a small... Sounded almost as though a small sliver of utopia was beginning to happen, and it's something we've been looking for quite a long time, and just anywhere. So I was hopeful that would perhaps be the case, as a result of what is going to happen.
Yes, well, she's going to switch back to English with the captain, and the goal, of course, is to find a common history. As you know, there are many factions and many cultures among the Martians, just as there are among those of us of Earth, humans of Earth. And just as humans, they don't always get along in their history, and it is the professor's hope that we might find a uniting bond through the temple and its artifacts.
And he nods. Just sort of looks again over his shoulder at Prime Minister von Bismarck, who is will sort of kind of will bow to you again. He says, "Well, I shall." As they start doing, the band starts doing more sort of dance music a little bit. It's more sort of that type thing. And he just sort of bows and will say, "Perhaps could I make it up to you?" He says, sort of gesturing at the dance floor.
My apologies. I am flattered, but I do not dance.
Oh, very well. Very well, Fräulein. And he says, "A pleasure to meet someone who's with such a deep understanding of history." And he turns, and he will now, head away. And he's actually heading over toward the English to bother them for a little while. Captain Gladstone will just sort of watch him go. He will lean down, and he said, "One thing that did strike me as just, well, I'm not sure. Perhaps it means more to you, but the Colonel did state that apparently they've uncovered what he refers to as the staff, and that all will be well soon." I'm not entirely certain what he meant by that. I thought I would run it by you just to see if that was something specific to your work.
Does that ring a bell? Is that something that she's been researching on his behalf?
Probably, but I would like you to make an academics check to see if what we come up with here.
Now, I do have a scholar's edge, which gives me a +2 to any knowledge skill.
Awesome. So yeah, that would apply here. So you will basically,
Okay.
you get. Go ahead and you can fill in a +2 behind your academics.
Okay, I did. It doesn't look like it. We'll see what happens if it's added in.
It's in there.
Yep.
Most definitely in there. So you got that's 15. So 4, 8, 12. Yeah. So that's a success with 2 raises. You're normally going for a 4, like I said, but here you got. Here you got 2 raises, almost 3. Yes. Okay. The Staff of Vulcan is this is like this is kind of, it's not exactly on the level of finding something like, the 10 Commandments or something like that, but it's not a Holy Grail object exactly, but we're getting close. We're getting like Spear of Longinus type deal. If we were to relate this to other archaeology that attempts to take place, legends, myths, that kind of thing. Not a whole lot is known, but it's like some of the earliest, one of the earliest Martian civilizations apparently had was ruled by King Vulcan, who had the ability to strike down, who would hold his who would hold their staff aloft and in the air and command the attention of all, and those who did not obey would have fire rained down upon them from the heavens.
Well, as she was calling this memory, she's close to her. Staff of Vulcan, yes. Oh. Quite interesting. What type of fire suppression systems do these ships have?
he will raise an eyebrow, and on that note, I think I'm actually going to shift the frame again, right at that moment. as that's getting sorted out. Let's see. We're going to head over to the to this cloud that's this cloud of people briefly. Over by the UK end of the room, where Baron Vivian and Count Remnen are chatting, and we see Stanislavski heading over. We've seen his headed over to try to talk to Count Remnen. You have found, Dimitri, that they do speak one of those two. Although it's not necessarily what they're going to primarily be using right now. But
Sure.
Most of what they're speaking right now is in English. You find that he's basically, he speaks very good English, but it's thus far. Have you been actually trying to ask them for about anything, or is this mostly just kind of just exchanging light pleasantries? What are we aiming at here?
At this point, at least with the Englishman and this specific, like the Martians, he's just light pleasantries at this point. If the Baron and the Count are in like a little bit of a heated conversation, which I'm not think it wouldn't be since they're basically bedfellows at this point, he'll wait and he'll try to just exchange light pleasantries with the Count themselves, like by himself if he can, but if he can't, he'll converse with both of them. Count Remnen, how do you expect these peace talks to go?
Yes. Well, I have, as he's sort of speaking with you, I have a good amount of hope that everything I think everything we need is going to happen. It is. I do not wish to, however, but yes, he's sort of smiling as he says it. It is always an interesting time when one sees any attempts being made to try to broker a peace. It is all a question, really, of the price.
Well, I'm sure that things will go your way, Count, or at least in a way that's agreeable for all sides in this.
Oh, indeed, one can but hope.
Of course, and Baron, has it been a busy day for you?
Of course, absolutely. It's been, shall we say, it's been rather a lot of chatting about with all manner of folks. It's been, but as it is, shall we say, part of the job title. One simply, does what one can amidst the flurry of activity.
Well, you seem to be taking it rather well.
I think it's. I think rather anything that ends with rather more. And he's picking up a couple of drinks, and he's saying with rather more talking and rather less people shooting at me is always good. And he's actually offering one of the drinks to you.
Oh, and I'll take it. What is it? Just basic like champagne and a flute, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah. It's Martian champagne.
Gotcha. And he'll Well, I wish it was vodka, but he'll, start sipping at it.
To be honest, so do I. He takes some.
Do you speak Russian, Baron?
Let me look at something real quick. Yeah. I picked up a smattering. Wrong character. I picked up a smattering every now and then. Seemed helpful from time to time.
Of course.
Studying
judging
studying
by
the east, not too far east.
Yeah. Where is Chekhov at this point?
Okay, so Chekhov has been circling around. He has actually kind of been trying to he's been talking over. You look over, you see he's still kind of, he and Prince Kimochi are still looking around, sort of walking around the room a bit more, and they're kind of like they're kind of, since they're trying to keep more to the edges since people have started dancing in the middle of the room, but you actually see them drifting, kind of. They're now sort of halfway between. Well, they're after, as we, the audience, know, they're sort of standing a little bit halfway between Ryton and Dressadia, who are actually not that far from each other right now, as the room has kind of shifted, and you see basically that it's one of those things where it's like you kind of see this as like this look on his face that you've seen before, where it's like, I have now sorted something and I'm trying to circle back, and he kind of glances and you can see he's trying to circle his way back to you, but he's got people in the way.
Of course. And when he gives me that look, I'll just turn back to the Baron, just like, if you excuse me, Baron, I believe my ambassador needs me.
Very good, my dear fellow. Well, best of luck to you.
And I'll finish the champagne, and I'll set it wherever we would set empty flutes at this point. And you just hear him in a very gruff tone of voice, and I'm probably going to butcher how these words are said in Russian. You just hear him say, Tchertovsky Anglichane. And if our Baron understands that little bit of Russian, it just means fucking Englishman.
And you kind of, as you're drifting off, you just sort of hear him sort of almost like under his breath, but just barely. You think what he says is, not nearly as much as I would like, I'm afraid. And,
Wait, in Russian or in English?
He says it in Russian.
Okay. Interesting. He will continue his way over to the ambassador then.
Okay. So I think Dressadia, you can see that that actually Prince Kimochi has been trying to kind of get your attention, but he's been kind of trying to deal with this juggernaut that is Ambassador Chekhov. So it's been a little touch and go. Are you saying something? You're muted.
I muted myself in 2 different places, y'all. I'm definitely officially professional. She would kind of do that very not so polite, but looks polite thing where she looks like she's just drifting, and she happens to drift in between the two of them in the middle of the conversation and said, and probably her Japanese is passable. She would informally greet him in Japanese, before switching to what are we using as the diplomatic language on this vessel? French or English?
Well, it's an English vessel, so I think we're going with English.
Before she would greet him formally in Japanese and say, "How are you doing, Your Highness?"
He'll do sort of the head bow thing, and he will say, he says, it's a little better now, I think.
Is the music to your liking, Your Highness?
Oh, it is. The music is fine. It is the dance that is proving somewhat difficult to navigate. There's rather a lot of, if you will forgive my saying so, there is rather a lot of people listening to themselves.
Yes, it happens quite frequently at such events.
But
when one should be listening to others, correct?
yes, I feel that not everything is right here, and I know that my understanding as one who on this planet has not a great stake, I am in a position to perhaps have the luxury not to try to protect as much, so I feel perhaps it is appropriate, at least, or more appropriate, to address and perhaps look at certain things, perhaps make you aware of certain things that have come to my attention.
Is the Russian ambassador still with the prince?
So you slice him up, and at that moment, so the Russian ambassador then spins off and immediately bumps into where Raiten is.
Okay.
And is starting to talk to him.
She's going to say, do you know, Your Highness, sometimes the best conversations, if one wishes to ensure that they are not overheard, are held on a more social standing. Do you waltz, sir?
I do indeed.
And she trying to okay, now I there's only so much I can do. Well, I can break all of your social etiquette because I'm not human.
Excellent. So, as this waltz is going to begin, I would like to, there's a role I'm going to look for in a moment. Let me see which role I'm going to ask for. Yeah, so unless you have performance of some kind, I'm just going to go with, persuasion, I think, here.
Persuasion?
Yeah.
Yay, I can do persuasion. Oh, it's a 3.
Okay. Let me,
We'll see how I will roll today. Not great.
just out of curiosity, see how he does. Okay, he's good.
You know, it's that human thing. It's the wings that get in the way.
That's fair. But he's kind of amused by the whole thing, and he will tell you one or two things, which I will come back and tell you in just a moment. But first, I need to deal with this collision over here.
Yep.
As you'll sort of Ambassador Chekhov is going to sort of almost slam right into Ryton, as sort of his path got redirected, and he'll just sort of look you up and down. Journalist, yes.
Indeed, Ambassador, indeed.
Ah, good. It is good to see you. I believe you refer to it in your lands as Fourth Estate, as though you have this need to place them down in that direction. What are you covering here, if I may ask? Anything of interest?
Well, I'm trying to cover this enterprise of peace, sir. And unfortunately, I'm not doing very well. I'm attempting to get a little bit of information, but everybody seems quite rather shielded in their conversations. I'm not exactly sure. I did overhear a little bit between the French and the Americans, but other than that,
Oh, anything good?
Not really. The French indicated that it seems that the senator has caught the eye of a member of the Martian delegation. Seems the Martians are quite interested in them.
Well, it depends on which Martians you're talking about, but of course they're going to be looking... everyone's looking askance right now at everybody else, because we're going to see if this thing carries on, or if, things... shall we say, the bridge holds.
Oh, yes, indeed. What is your opinion of all this?
I am hoping the bridge holds. This is very interesting. Is this place, this land? It is very, and he's sort of taking you and sort of sweet. He's put his arm around you, and he's sort of trying to steer in some direction or another. He's trying to get toward Stanislavski, but it's been difficult. He's saying, no, that is the trouble with this, as it often is. You see, it would be very good for this to go through. As the less warring we have to worry about, the more we can look toward any other problems we might be having. We have to help our people.
Yes, definitely.
Our respective peoples need as much aid as we can. We can't have war going on endlessly. Not over this piece of red rock.
So, you mentioned worries, sir. Are there any worries that you have in particular in regards to this process?
Well, it depends. There's a fine line between worry and cynicism. Dimitri, you can back me up on this. Yes, he's finally reached you.
Back you up on what, sir? Or have I heard the conversation they've been having?
You've been catching some of it.
Then that question stands.
I'm gonna take a look, and you are the actor, correct, Dimitri?
He kind of looks like taken aback at the fact that you know that, and just like, yes, and you would be...
right and wrong, sir, of the wrong perspective. I'm a writer. That's...
The wrong perspective, is that a newspaper of sorts, or...
It's a weekly article, yes, sir, with the Certus Major Post.
I see, I haven't had the time to read much. What were you asking our good ambassador about, if I may ask?
Oh, well, we were discussing the ongoing peace process that hopefully this will forge. Just curious if there was anything in particular that perhaps might be of concern, perhaps something that our readers would be interested in,
Well, if you want information on the person I think would probably be the most likely to make it go wrong, I would go talk to him. And I point to Prime Minister Otto von Bismarck.
So you turn to point to him, and you see him actually heading out of the room. At this point, he's seeing there. His cloud of attaches are actually not nearby. You sort of look over and you see him. You see him heading toward this area sort of behind the bar, and as you sort of do that, Dimitri, you will see that you will hear basically that Sergei sort of leans in to you and says to you in Russian. That you're looking for Bismarck, so am I. Bismarck is looking for friends, and it seems like he's trying. It seems like he and the Count are trying to, between the two of them, rack up all the new friends they can in this little meeting. Just be wary. And he just sort of is going to pat you on the shoulder. Actually, I'm very pleased that someone here knows Dimitri's great work here. In fact, you should talk about that for a bit. I have a thing I need to take care of. And he is going to again spin on his heel, and he's going to head out a door on the opposite end of the room.
Alrighty. And I'll sort of turn to this journalist. Well, did you have any questions, I guess?
Well, certainly. Are you, how are you enjoying Mars?
It's an interesting planet, to say the least. I'd rather be, if you ask me, back home on Earth, performing in shows written by Anton Chekhov, but, not many options whenever the ambassador essentially made me come with him. So...
Right. Well, that's certainly understandable. Tell me, sir, are you planning any performances? Perhaps maybe something in celebration if these peace talks go well?
I could certainly be persuaded.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I'm sure that there's plenty of Earthers here, naturally, of course, that would love to attend a show, but perhaps bringing a bit of Earth culture to the Martians would catch their interest as well.
It very well could. Do you know anything about Martian theater, if that's even a thing here? I haven't had the time to inquire.
Unfortunately, reviewing Martian performances is a bit not in my... That's handled by somebody else at the Post. I do a lot of opinion pieces. As I said, I write the wrong perspective, so I like to, observe things and give editorials.
Well, if you have opinion pieces, you could certainly give them on the arts rather than what I'm assuming is political things like this.
Well, would that be an invitation, sir, to a future performance? I would certainly love to write a wrong perspective on one of your performances.
Well, I'll have to talk with some people and see if I can pull some strings, but I can maybe pull enough actors from a delegation here that I can maybe get something together.
That would be splendid. Absolutely, sir. If you would like to have a review and any kind of publicity, trust me, you have the wrong man on the job.
Of course, anything else?
Well, perhaps, maybe, tell me, are you, since you are a performer, obviously you're a bit closer to the men than the people of your country than Ambassador might be. Tell me, do the Russian people have concerns in regards to Mars? Anything that they might need expressed?
And you can see like a visible like change in his face whenever you ask that question. We have our concerns, but if there are any, they'll be brought up at the negotiation table rather than a piece of reporting. And I'll pat him on the shoulder and I'll just leave to go mingle a bit.
So, right at this moment, I want to just shift brief for just a second. So, Elspeth, something that you noted pretty much immediately after you made these statements to the captain is that he immediately got a couple of his men together and they're just sort of looking around. And you can see they're kind of on alert for something at this point. And you can see a moment ago one of his aides came back up to him who he'd sent off and just sort of whispered something, and he immediately went off the deck.
Okay.
Now this area, by the way, there are several openings, several ways out, and all that. So it's not a like a big confined space. Are you going to remain where you are, or is there anything else you want to?
No, actually, she knows
now.
that Dressadia is here as the High Martian, part of the High Martian delegation, and they've probably met in passing during the travel. And so as the captain goes off, she's going to close her book again using the ribbon to mark the page. And she's going to go looking for Dressadia. She'll stand up and she's kind of scanning the crowd. And then she'll see Dressadia on the dance floor with the prince. And being Elspeth and not aware of proper etiquette at this point, she'll just go over and she will tap the prince on the shoulder. Excuse me, may I cut in? And then just kind of slip in and try and...
So, moments before this happened, mere seconds before this happened, Dressadia, just what the prince said to you is a couple of things. One is that he wants the peace to be sincere, but he is concerned, and he says, looking around, something that I'm perhaps becoming slightly more worried about at this very moment is not necessarily who is here, but who is not. And then he's gonna get tapped on the shoulder immediately, and he's like, oh, and he just sort of steps back, and we'll nod, and he will let the two of you dance if you so desire.
I mean, did you want her to dance with you? Because if you do, then she'll dance.
She assumes that it would be better to do that than to just take your arm and walk off the dance floor with you. So she'll bow at the prince, and then she'll kind of do the whole awkward, wait, which arm goes?
And Dressadia would like kind of guide you into it.
Okay.
Awkwardly.
Yep. What Martian languages does Dressadia speak?
All of them.
All of them. So, in a rather obscure one, Noakan, Elspeth will say to you, are you familiar with the staff of Vulcan?
Am I familiar with the staff?
So, this is the time to roll academics if you have it.
I do indeedy. With a 5, I make it.
You've heard of it. It's basically, apparently there was a It was it was either a king or a civilization called Volcan, and they had, and apparently it's like the staff of like their last king.
Mm-hmm.
There was a and it's one of those things. It's like there were like back in those times like half a dozen different stories about the world ending, and that was kind of one of them. Mm-hmm. That's why he was the last king of his civilization, because they stopped after that.
Yep. Flawless response. She goes, I am passing familiar with, yes, is there a concern?
It is said of the staff that the king who willed it could command obedience, because those who disobeyed would be burned in a rain of fire.
Ah,
Yes.
some concern.
There's two more items of note regarding this. One, it appears that my employer, Professor Eddington, has found the staff. And two, I've just received word that there is unrest at the site by an unknown faction of your planetary. We would be from an unknown faction of Martians that they're hoping to quell without too much violence.
Ah. Well,
I suspect there's going to be trouble.
Yes, yes. I'm quite sure of that. And as she's dancing, can she scan the ballroom and see where our good friend Otto has pieced off to?
Please make a notice roll.
6.
So,
Why did that? Oh no, I know why. Never mind. Sorry.
so keeping in mind what was just said to you,
Yep.
you see that the captain was in the room. The captain's not in the room now.
Not as concerned about that.
The Russian ambassador is no longer in the room. Prime Minister von Bismarck is no longer in the room. And neither is Count Remnan.
She would like lean in and say, have you noticed that Count Reimnen and good Minister Bismarck and that Russian fellow have taken leave? I do believe it's time for others to possibly do the same.
And I think that's more or less when you're going to hear sort of a loud sort of rumble from outside. And
Oddly enough,
yeah.
Dressadia hits the deck and doesn't really pay attention to a lot of other shit.
Yeah, so the ship kind of shakes a little bit. The whole sort of dance floor is kind of like it's not a huge amount of. It's not like the ship itself has been hit, but it seems as though one of your escorts perhaps has. As
Elspeth will take her
hear the
cue from
sound
Dressadia and hit the floor as well.
Hear the sounds of cannons.
And she also call out in High Martian, assuming that the other representatives of the Empire would hear her and follow along. And if anybody else understood High Martian, say, hey, I'm trying here, but really don't care about you.
Yep.
I think Wrighton's going to do what every good journalist would do in a situation like this. Immediately run to the windows and see what's going on.
Awesome.
Upon hearing this rumbling, Dmitri is running to the Russian embassy's room and he's getting his gun.
Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to now break this down a little bit into rounds. And there's not going to be necessarily a direct antagonist here. This is more of a sort of a series of representational rounds. I forget what Savage Worlds technically calls this mode that we're about to enter. But it's just so that I can keep track of when everyone's doing everything. And we're going to see kind of where we are. I'm going to make sure I get your names down here. Just so that I'm about to throw these cards out to places, to somewhere I can see them, because that will help. All right. Okay. Let me know if anyone took any edges that adjust your initiative. But otherwise, you're going on the order of your card. And now I'm going to draw a card for Things Advancing. Okay, Things Advance first. Because that's a king. So, yeah, something immediately are kind of that's going to happen as this is all going on is that one of the escort ships is going to take a hint that looks fairly serious. Some of the wood splinters in and flies into the ballroom, sort of as it comes across, and it looks like that they're having a little trouble. I will let you know exactly what is happening in a moment. But people are starting to actually now. Some people in the ballroom are running and panicking. Some are hitting the deck, but they have become aware there is a problem. In general, the general public has become aware. We go now to the Jack of Spades, and Dimitri. It is your action.
Yeah. Okay. So, am I already in the Russian embassy room at this point, or am I still having to make my way there? So
you're going to race down. You already stated you were heading out of the room. It's not going to take you long to get down there. And so we're going to say this round you can retrieve your weapon if that's what you'd like to do. Is there anything else you? This isn't going to be strict like 6-second type rounds per se. Right now, this is going to be more narrative. You get into the room. It actually looks slightly astray. It looks like it's been kind of messed with a little bit. It's not as though anyone actually found anything. But things are strewn about a little bit more than usual.
Right. Is there any type of window in this room, or?
There is. There's a porthole. It's you're a level down, so you don't have direct open air access, but you can see out if you so desire.
Okay. I'm going to look out the porthole and see if I can see anything. If I can't, I'm just going to head back towards the. Well, maybe this will probably be next round. If I don't see anything, I'm going to head back towards the main area of the ship.
Make a notice roll, please.
Okay. Notice is not great, but we're going to try it anyway, y'all. Notice. Here we go.
Okay, that's a success.
Okay.
You kind of are looking out and you see that on this side of the ship at least, you're seeing basically this English gunship that is being attacked by something. Looks like it's one of those kind of ones with sails on them. You can't necessarily immediately identify, but there's at least one. Probably it's probably not the only ship based on where you heard the last thing hit. But you can see one of them. me see if I can find the vehicles here, and I can give you a slightly better idea of what we're talking about. Yeah. It's, yeah. It's somewhere, it's like some kind of a war kite. Looks like. Which would be a Martian ship.
Right.
But, anyway. That's what you're able to determine.
Okay.
And you're able to grab your gun and you're heading back.
Yep.
And we're now going to go to the next card down, which is the 9 of diamonds. That is Dressadia. Is there something you would like to do?
Well, do I see... I mean, she's gonna kind of move herself across the floor so she's not in the middle of the dance floor anymore, to one side or the other, probably closer to where she last saw Lord Thrennick.
Okay, yeah, Thrennick's still in the room. He's
Yeah.
he's also hit the deck at this point. Possibly because he saw you hit the deck.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he's following directions, it's good. You know,
He's kind of young.
She's probably going to try and get to one side or the other, see if she can glance over the side, see who's firing, if she can track that.
Okay.
Oh, whoops. That's not right.
But appropriate. Go ahead and do a notice check for me, please.
Cool.
So you got a 7. You succeeded. So you can see, there are windows in here. You think that there are a couple of war kites out there. These are kind of unmarked war kites, as it were. So, air pirates. Looks like, which is stupid. Because they're attacking a British gunship.
Yeah.
But it is causing a bit of a disturbance.
Yeah, I don't think these are pirates. She's going to remove from the back of her waistband one of the guns she has, and just kind of move towards Thrennick and be like, "Yep, we're preparing to defend ourselves."
Fabulous. He takes out a small knife. Okay.
You should bring anything bigger than that.
And he will glance over at he'll glance over at the piano. He's like, "Yeah, I put it in there."
Fine.
And we're gonna go now down to Elspeth. What are you doing?
Elspeth watched Dressadia move away and realizes that there are a few things down in her. She's going to go back to where she was sitting, where she had left a satchel there that basically contained her things in it, and she's going to go back to her satchel. And she's crawling along the floor. She gets to her satchel, stuffs the books in there, slings it across, makes sure that the vest that she's wearing underneath her prim jacket as part of her outfit is securely fastened, because it happens to be a nice leather vest. And I'm sure there were shipboard drills. There are always shipboard drills about what to do in case of an emergency. Dressadia has wings, that's fine. Elspeth does not, and they are in the air. And so I think she's going to be sensible, and she is going to head for the lifeboats.
Okay. Yes. You can start heading for the lifeboats. They're going to be down. They're going to be down below. And it's not going to be sort of down below on the sides. And so it's they're not going to have too much trouble. You do see, as soon as you start hanging down there, you're not the only one who's had this idea.
But she's being very, very English and very practical, and
Yeah.
she's walking. There is no panic. This is We walk calmly, and we will queue properly, and we will wait our turn, but we are going to walk to the lifeboats and prepare to evacuate, because I'm sure that the captain will give the announcement at any time.
Absolutely. So that's...
She's also got her hand in a pocket on her derringer, just in case somebody tries to get a little fresh.
Absolutely. Okay, and we're now going to head down to Wrighton. What are you doing?
So Wrighton is going to be crouched at one of the windows, kind of looking out. And is he able to see, these unmarked war kites?
Give me a notice roll, please.
Okay.
Okay, you got a raise. Yes. You also notice something kind of interesting. They're not actually hitting either of the ships. There are several of them. But they're kind of, let me put it to you this way. There are several war kites in the air right now. You can kind of see on the deck, you think, because you see some of them crawling up the rigging, that there are hill Martians on them. But you can see that they're kind of... Here's the thing. It's not that they're not trying to hit the ships. It's that they're not very good at it, it seems. And it seems like they're way outgunned. So there shouldn't there's really no way that, it's going to take a little bit, but there's no way that they're really going to be able, do you think, to successfully board any of the, even the outer ships, let alone this one.
Okay. All right. So, Wrighton is going to be making some notes on that, and while he, so I imagine that, like, he's looking out, he sees this, he kind of ducks down a moment to make his notes, and while he's doing that, he takes a moment to look around and just kind of scan the room in order to see, which delegations are, you see who's still around, because having noticed that that von Bismarck had, disappeared just before all this occurred, he's looking to see who else is still in the room.
Yeah. You look around and you see a lot of people have fled, but you see that the Anotrian contingent is still here. So Dresidia and Lord Thrinic is still here. Senator Palmer is still here, working his way toward the exit from America. Prince Kimochi. His security have come up, and they're starting to try to usher him out of the room. General Boulanger and Madame de Bonnemont, Marguerite Brosé, we're still trying to dance for a minute, even while the shooting started. But they're being dragged away. But Ambassador Sergei Chekhov is not here. And none of the folks from the UK are here at this point, aside from the crew that are sometimes running back and forth and getting into defensive positions. And also the Count Ramnen of the Boreas Sirtis League is not here either.
Okay.
You think, I will say, you think you saw Baron Vivian getting swept out of the room, because by a couple of the red suited troops, so you just barely saw him getting pulled out before everyone else, but that's a bit.
Okay.
Well, I say everyone else. Bismarck left earlier, and you know what I mean. Yeah.
Right. So
I will. I'm sorry. I'll specify for you just real quick because I realize this is what you're looking for. I didn't fully answer your question. It seems to you the ones that left the room before this started were Ambassador Chekhov, Otto von Bismarck, and Count Remnen. Those were the three.
Right. But you also said that the English.
The English, well, yeah. The English delegation, you saw him getting swept out, but at the same time, it's like the crew seemed to be on the lookout for something.
Okay. So the English crew is on the lookout, like they're looking for something in the room, or that they're running about in response.
Well, no, they were.
To the
it seemed
attack.
like they're running about in response more to the attack now.
Okay.
But you think they went on alert shortly before the attack, so it's like they weren't looking for something specific, but they were like, "What the hell's is something going on?" What
Almost
kind of
as if somebody had said something to them.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think Wrighton is going to start moving towards Dressadia. And when he gets over there, he's going to show the sketch he's drawn of this war kite. And go, who are these?
Yeah.
Are we still in turn order, or can I answer?
No, yeah, you can answer.
Not smart pirates, which I'm not concerned about so much as the missing good minister Bismarck or the Russians.
Yes. I did notice that they weren't here. The Brendan, the Count, he also left as well.
Also, not a surprise.
And
That's concerned.
so these are not from your group. These are pirates?
Correct. They don't look like Imperial ships, correct?
No.
And they're unmarked.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Well,
They're not any of ours.
Yeah. They don't look like Imperial ships with the serial numbers filed off.
Okay.
That's the other axe question. Do they look like ships with the serial numbers filed off?
They don't exactly seem very smart. They seem extremely small and unprepared for attacking a ship like this.
I think they're just the distraction.
That certainly does make sense. The distraction for what?
Well, since I've just dealt out the cards for the next round, and it turns out that the other things going on get the highest card, I guess I'll tell you. It's more or less at this point that the ship kind of rocks a little bit. It hasn't been hit by something, as far as you all can tell, but there is this loud sort of going on from somewhere below decks, and things are wobbling a little bit. And as we continue in our turn order, we go to Dimitri.
Yeah, so I'm just going to be heading back to the ballroom of the ship, but I'm also going to be just yelling for the ambassador the entire time, because I don't know where the hell he went. So
Yeah, you've not Yeah, you've been yelling for him. He hasn't heard yet, but you're making your way back into the ballroom at this point, and you haven't seen him. He has not responded.
Okay. At this point, whoever's still in the room, you would see that Dimitri's come back and he has like a small but set, almost like mean-looking revolver in his hand. So what are those? Pointing to the war kites, because he doesn't really know what those are yet. Like pointing to the war kites out the window.
The distraction.
Yes, I've been trying to find the ambassador, but it appears that he has gone somewhere else, whether it's off the ship or still here. He hasn't responded to any of my calls, so...
Time to leave.
I don't think I should leave without him.
I'm pretty sure if you want to keep breathing, you're going to need to.
Man, he's got to play to some of his hindrances here. He's gonna try and go around the ship and just try to find the ambassador if he can.
Ooh. Okay. Go ahead and make another notice roll for me, please.
Okay.
See if you can figure out if that's basic. Yeah, unless you're like trying to yell to people to tell you where they saw him. That's the other way. But are you yelling at people or are you looking?
Let's yell at people because my persuasion's pretty good.
That'll be persuasion then. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So persuasion.
9. Yeah. Someone tells you they thought they saw him. They thought they saw him heading for the engine room.
Interesting. Then I'll go look for him there, and that's where I'm heading next.
Okay. Dressadia, your turn. What would you like to do?
I'm going to help Lord Thrinnick get the weapon out of the piano, and then I'm going to turn to everybody else left in this room and say, it seems that I think this is now going to be someone may have sabotaged this ship and they're going to blame it on pirates. I think it's time to exit. Stage left, even.
Excellent. Let's see here. All right.
Do I see any lifeboats leaving the vessel?
Not yet. That is,
And do I perceive that the vessel is losing altitude?
you do perceive the vessel is starting to lose altitude. It's happening slowly. But now, as this is now the time for me to make sure that I tell you all, because of course I forgot to mention this at the beginning. You each have 3 bennies.
Mm-hmm.
Which you may use to spend for rerolls and for soaking damage, should it come to that.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to, thus far, now award everyone an additional benny for the RP that's been going on.
Ooh, thank you.
Dimitri further is going to get another benny for very specifically role-playing that hindrance.
I mean, I'm lucky my hindrance is right standing next to me. I just need to shove him off the ship first.
That's fair.
Elspeth's are on her face.
You see, you will see, Thrinnick opens the piano and pulls out this. It's basically kind of the Martian equivalent of a bazooka.
Oh, he didn't bring the shield gun? Okay, the bazooka's fair.
Yeah, it's a heavy weapon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been cool. It doesn't. That's the thing. It doesn't look like a bazooka. It's a little narrower and it's easier to conceal.
Yes, I think it's time to take flight and leave.
Let's go.
And then she'll just kind of glance around and see if there's anyone nearby who needs assistance out, and like, the journalist was right there, right?
Yeah, the journalist, I think, is the only one who's still in the room with you.
Yeah, okay. And
Yeah.
Dimitri left. He's like, do you trust and she'll turn to Mr. Wrong and say, do you trust the life vessels on this vessel, or do you require other means of egress?
Well, I would say the quickest way off is the best.
Okay, good. Hold on. Do you get nauseous in the air?
Not normally.
Okay, good. And she'll just like grab you by the arms and watch Thenic go first, and then she'll jump over the side with you.
Yeah! All right.
And have the wings out.
Fun to be had. All right. Well, we're gonna come to Elsbeth, and as you're heading down, you're basically you're heading down trying to help get folks to the lifeboats, that kind of deal.
She's not trying to help anybody get to the lifeboats. She's trying to help herself get to the lifeboats.
Okay. Make a notice roll for me, please.
All right. Now, I do have another edge investigator that gives me a +2 to certain types of notice. Would this assist in that?
Let me see. Oh, certain types of notice rolls.
Yep.
We will. I will give it to you here.
Okay. So add that in there.
Okay. Yeah, you got a raise. You're gonna notice something. As you're coming down, sort of, it's like below decks and then out to get to the lifeboats. You see what looks like, for a second, and this is like far ahead for a moment, where the engine room is. You see what looks like the Russian ambassador running forward with a gun drawn, and then a few seconds later, as you get a little further and closer, because you have to pass by to get to the lifeboat, you see Dimitri run down and start bolting toward the engine room as well.
He also has a gun drawn.
He also has a gun drawn.
Is Dimitri running in the same direction as the Russian ambassador?
Yeah, they were both headed into the engine room.
She's going to pick up the pace towards the lifeboats.
Okay.
And throwing a few unladylike elbows and stepping on more than a few insteps, if that's what it takes to get there.
Go ahead and make an agility roll for me, please, as you're trying to get through and around people.
This is where things go south.
Yeah,
As I
okay,
said,
you
this is where
succeed.
can I use my Benny to re-roll that, please?
You got a success.
I did?
So you're okay.
Oh,
Yeah, you
that's
got a
right, the
5
wild
on the
die.
wild die. Yeah.
Got it.
So you're okay. You're good. But we come down to Wrighton, and basically the question is: are you going with the are you going with them flying off the ship?
Yeah. Hey, why not? Just,
Okay.
curiosity killed the cat, and
So as you're kind of looking around,
let's let the fur fly.
Dresidia, do you have him, or does Thrennic have him?
I think Thrennic has the big gun, and he can keep the big gun.
Okay. So, Dresidia, as you're flying out, you can start to see a little bit better at what's going on. Again, the pirates have not managed to touch the ship, But Righton, I would like you to make a notice roll for me again as you're out here looking around.
Sure.
Okay. The good news is that you're actually very close to where to where you were supposed to where you were supposed to land anyway. Because there's you can see in the distance, you see the temple. And you see like the little sort of landing area that they were going to have near there. So that's good. Problems with the ship as you're looking around. You'll see that it is starting to kind of like list as it's heading down. As there's smoke coming from some of the from one of the areas that smoke should not be coming out of, sort of from below decks. You will notice also that on the horizon, well, it's not even as far as the horizon, but looking over in the direction of, you see a sort of little light shining from the direction of the area where the temple is. Is there anything you would like to try to do whilst you are here, or are you just holding on for dear life?
I think probably holding on for dear life is going to be the top priority. I'd like to get to the ground, but not entirely too quickly.
That is the objective always when getting to the ground, not to hit it at an alarming rate. We're going to deal more cards real quick. Okay. It's a sudden stop at the bottom always it hurts. Why am I always getting the high card? Okay. So there is a little explosion that seems to come, and the ship rocks again. That seems to come from the sort of minor explosion from the engine room. You can see that these ships are these kite ships are kind of getting either shot out of the sky, or some of them are starting to turn and flee. We come back around once again to Righton, as you've got the next highest card. Is there something you would like, something else you would like to do, or are you just going to be on hold for right now?
I think, yeah, as long as we have not yet, I don't want to say hit, approached the ground, I think Righton is mostly just kind of looking around in all directions. I think he's probably going to be a bit focused on the lights coming from the temple, but he is still glancing back at the attack on the ship.
Yeah. It looks like it's starting to wind down, the attack itself, but the ship itself is having problems now, so that's kind of weird. I'm going to go ahead and flip your card over just so that you're on hold, so that means that you can, if you have an action you want to do, you can dive in at any point, basically. If you want to...
Dive in.
Yeah, dive, right. Yeah. But we're going to go now to Dimitri, who has the 7 of diamonds.
Yeah, so, what am I seeing as I go into the engine room here?
As you come into the engine room, you hear shooting, and you see Sergei standing and shooting, and you see his hand gets shot, and he spins back and he's like, ah! As you come in.
So I'm just seeing.
And
Oh, okay. Sorry, keep going.
and so there are a number of this part of the engine the engine room. Again, this sort of design Martian ship is not entirely enclosed. There are some basically more sort of windows sort of open. It looks like some a couple of hatches have been opened, and you see someone standing by the by the engine that appears to be smoking. He seems to have been doing something to it.
Who is it?
Holding a gun. It looks like it's von Bismarck, which is incredibly strange. And I'm actually now going to deal him a card since he's a specific actor in this whole thing. And we've now gotten to him. Just so that we have it. He also has a 7, so that means he's going next. But you have a moment. What would you like to do?
Is the ambassador like right in front of me?
He's not far. You could get to him.
I'm just grabbing him by whatever kind of like shirt or coat collar I can get him by, and I'm just telling him, we need to leave. And I'm going to start like dragging him out, and then I'm not going to try and take a very aimed shot, but I'm still going to try to shoot in the general direction of von Bismarck.
Okay. Go ahead and make a shooting roll for me, please.
Yeah. Shooting. Never thought I'd have to do that this session.
Okay, that 4 is generally a hit. It is, however, there are, it's not very stable right now, so what you're going to do is you're actually going to hit very close to him. Sort of takes sort of the side. It's you can see like you get him kind of in the side of the face, and it's there's perhaps a little. It looks weird too, as he's doing it, and we come to his turn. As you can see, he's been doing something. He's like, just sort of stands up straight. He's like, oh, that was very good. You're not quite who I was expecting to see here, but needs must. And he reaches down and he pulls off his mask. And you can see he is a much younger, more attractive looking gentleman. And he says, I must say, he says looking around, that not nearly as healthy going mercenary, but the pay is much better. Have a good day, gentlemen. And he turns around and he runs and jumps off the ship.
Oh.
He appeared to be wearing some kind of a pack on his back, so perhaps he has something.
Oh my god, he's the Rocketeer! Alright. Well, that's a thing that happened.
And you do, in fact, hear something that sounds like a rocket activating as he leaps off.
Alrighty. Well. Okay. That's a thing that happened.
You see, the engine's not doing great now. It's smoking from a couple different places.
I don't know shit about trying to fix this kind of thing, so I'm just dragging whatever distance I can. I'm just dragging the ambassador towards the lifeboats.
Yeah, you've got him.
Okay, cool.
Okay. We're over to, let's see, 5 of hearts. Hearts is above clubs. Elspeth.
Elspeth.
Yeah.
Yes. How
What would you
close
wanna
is
do?
she to the lifeboats?
You're about there.
She's going to get there.
Okay. Do you want to get on one of them, or are you going?
Oh
to...
yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes. She's going to get into a lifeboat. She's going to make sure that any women in the crowd that are with her, I doubt there are any children on board the ship, but
No.
any women that are also that might be around will get on board, and Yeah, before allowing any of the gentlemen on board.
Yes, yes. So you managed to do that without any trouble. They immediately they get you on. You see actually that some of the crew, a couple of the crew are down there, and they're starting to prep this now because they're like, oh crap.
Time to go, gentlemen.
And they crowd you onto a lifeboat with the mistress of General Boulanger, and and a few other folks. They do manage to get. General Boulanger is standing there, but he'll take the next one, basically. And the lifeboats are starting to deploy. And we will finally come back around to Dressadia.
Do I see anybody else jump off the back of this vessel?
Please make a notice roll for me.
Cool. I can do that. It's a 7.
You do!
Really?
Yes, there's someone flying out there.
He obviously doesn't look like a Martian.
No, it doesn't have wings.
It's a thing.
Flying up. He's waving. He's waving at you.
No. Is he?
Yes.
Is he indeed? She'll kind of do the little hand wave at him. And then turn to Lord Thornick and say, do you want to shoot him?
I thought you'd never ask.
Because I'm holding Righton. And I don't have the big gun. I only have a revolver. And a derringer. And other things.
I figure he's got decent shooting. It's probably not great, but he's probably got decent shooting.
It's a bigger gun that can hit things better.
It is a big gun. Let's see how he does. Oh, that's a good shot. Okay. So let's see. Let's see that table again. For these heavy weapons. Oh, he gets 3d10. Okay.
Can we just say goodbye, Leslie Howard?
We might. Okay. So that's 12 damage. Like, he fires this thing, which does you see this burst of fire coming from the end of it. And you see it does hit him. He's maneuvering to try to avoid it, but it does hit him, and it does look like he is in free fall right now. As the thing is stopped for a second. It looks for a second just before there's sort of like mist almost below, sort of the mists, and there's like a little. It's not a very big sandstorm. Very big storms don't happen very often on Mars. That he seems to be falling toward. And you think perhaps you see for a second the jets come back on just as he enters. But he does not come back out again.
Oh, that's a shame. How are you, Mr. Wrighton?
Mr. Wrighton, I will say, by the way, you have figured out what it is you're seeing on the horizon. And you realize that it's this series of fires from all these tents that were set up out there, because it looks as though Peacetown is been incinerated.
Why?
So I think in response to the question of how I'm doing, I'm just going to point and just respond with, I believe I'm fine, I think, but I don't think they are.
And I think that is where we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We will be back in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. We have returned to the deserts of Mars, where, I'm just going to, if folks are alright with this, I'm going to advance things a tiny bit, where there is regrouping happening on the ground. The 2 warships are fine. The diplomatic vessel, unfortunately, is crashing into the ground. I think they just managed to avoid an incident so that it doesn't crash like into the canal beyond. But it crashes into the ground not far from Peacetown, which is also apparently ablaze. And there now needs to be a bit of sorting of things out. I will say that folks have... everyone has made it off. Everyone has made it off that ship in various lifeboats. And they're not quite... They're sort of... The 2 ships, the 2 warships, are very, like... wary of each other right now. They've both kind of dropped anchor. And you're all within walking distance of the city, which is the tent city, over by this temple, this big sort of triangular temple that was uncovered in this valley near, not too far from a canal. It's at that point when people are starting to try to figure out what to do to organize, but they haven't quite yet. And so you have 2 camps. 2 main camps, and then, you know, that are, of course, each one broken up into smaller camps. In that you have there's a Martian vessel, which is... And actually, it's still... Yes, that's right, because the Enotrian vessel hasn't arrived yet, so... It's really... They're allies. It's still all right now, for the most part. But we have the... So we have the English battle gunship that's there, whose captain is coming, whose people are coming down and assisting. You have the Martian gunship that is there, the Boreocertian ship specifically. Whose folks are coming out to aid people, and we're trying to figure out where everyone is. Right now, it's a big cluster of people, as these lifeboats have landed. And I mean, I expect some of them just went directly to these other ships. So I would like to know where everyone has ended up, because through the miracle of narration, I feel we have. I feel as though everyone has ended up in roughly the same spot.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say that the lifeboats that Elspeth and Dimitri were on have ended up on the ground. Mm-hmm. Because by the time, for various reasons, Elspeth's ship had sort of a few issues, and you needed to get closer to the temple anyway. Dimitri, by the time you got on a lifeboat, it was already, you know, the ground was closer. And so you folks, so you have a cluster of people, among them Dressadea and Elspeth and Dimitri and Righton. What would you all like to do?
First things first, I turn to the ambassador. What the fuck was that?
He's sitting there, and he's like his hand is actually being bandaged right now, as people have sort of clustered together here as best they can here in the middle of the desert, while everyone else is kind of sort of sorting things out. His hand right now is being bandaged by Marguerite, who was on the other lifeboat. And he's like, he's looking up. Well, it's very interesting, and everyone's going to be able to hear this. He's like, that ass Halliwell. I knew it was him.
And you failed to tell me this. Why?
Well, there are only so many things that you can know before you cannot know them. You know what I'm saying? I tell you this thing, you have the burden of knowing it, and it was trying to just see if he was. I didn't know he was going to try to blow up the ship. Did not know why he was here.
What did you think?
I thought he was here working. Well, I did not realize fully. I'd heard the rumors he had gone mercenary, and I was thinking about trying to find out if he had a price structure in place yet. Apparently, he has figured all that out already.
And at this point, he's probably going to do something that's a little bit shocking. He slaps the ambassador across the face. Next time there are things happening, you tell me. To think I left the fucking theater for this, and he just walks off.
He actually looks a little impressed.
There we go. Good. He'll go find... Because it was the High Martian ambassador that was also gone, correct?
Yes. Well, the
Well,
Canal
before the
Martian,
attack.
yeah, the Canal Martian ambassador.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, the more common one was the one that was gone.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Count Raynon was the one who is gone versus Lord Thenic. Lord
Right.
Thenic is the High Martian representative of the Empire. Count Raynon is the Canal Martian of the
Okay,
Boss.
got it.
B League.
Are there any of the Martians of Lord Rennick's variety, like, around this camp at all?
They are mostly clustered over by the Boreocertian ship.
Okay.
Their gunship at this point. You think that his lifeboat probably ended up going in that direction.
Gotcha. Well, it looks like we might need to ask him some questions later, but let's go talk to some of our other friends, and I'll go find... let's go find Mr. Wrighton.
What's Mr. Wrighton doing?
I think at this point he's been scribbling notes about the attack, but also the sketching the Peacetown on fire.
So you've had a very good view of it, and you can see that sort of as you're looking at it, that there seems to be this light glinting from the temple itself. It's very strange.
Okay.
The temple's not on fire.
You said the temple's also on fire, or not on fire?
Temple is not on fire.
Okay. All right. So who all is actually walking over? Is it just Dimitri, or is it...
You're in the vicinity of pretty much everyone else and a few a few delegates, attaches, things of that nature.
Okay.
And so Dresady is there, and Elspeth is there, and
So I think what's going to happen in that case is Wrighton is going to look at Dresidia and point to the light and ask, is that supposed to be glowing or is that new?
Not me, and I don't believe it's supposed to be doing that. Elspeth!
Yes.
Is it supposed to be doing that? I don't think it is.
Well, it depends on just what kind of trouble the professor has gotten himself into. I really do need to be checking on him. And she's already tied a scarf around her head, put on sunglasses, her regular glasses wrapped up carefully and put in the satchel, and is picking up her skirts and preparing to stalk off through the sand dunes with that very determined walk of an English lady who is going to go give somebody a piece of her mind. And she's muttering under her breath about the professor. I knew I shouldn't have left him alone. That man always getting into trouble. He can't even tie his own shoes, much less handle something like, oh, good God. And she just keeps...
Yeah.
Come along. We need to go find the professor.
I believe we're going that way. If you gentlemen care to join us, please do, but that way seems to be the way with all of the information.
Oh, yep. Tell me twice.
Guess you'll find some information to write in your papers, Mr. Ron.
Yes, absolutely. Must tell the wrong story about what's going on here.
Oh, you're the professor of... you write the wrong perspective. That's very interesting. Was it you or one of... I know she's saying as she's walking, just... I'm struggling to understand. How did you confirm that the... French attaché had syphilis?
Well, you have to speak to the right people. That's all. I happen to know somebody.
It was his
the
mistress.
doctor at the attaché.
Very, very intriguing, and very, very intriguing. Your sources are quite essential, quite important. No, there isn't, Jim. There is no escape.
there is no way out. There's no way out. Oh God! Sorry, go ahead.
But then she would just kind of keep that kind of running conversation as following after Elspeth, and then turn to Dimitri and say, you managed to get off well? Are you all right?
I'm a bit pissed off at the ambassador, but other than that, we're fine. And as we're walking past the ambassador, I'll just stare daggers at him. And then I'll just, try and hold the conversation as best I can as we're walking towards the temple.
Is there a particular reason you are angry at your ambassador, aside from the general fact that he,
Do you think he knows what went wrong?
He had reason to suspect that the German ambassador wasn't who he thought he was, and didn't bother to tell his, assistant. So, needless to say, guess while we're walking, our German delegate was not Prime Minister Otto von Bismarck. It was...
And just scribbling all of this down.
It was a Major Julian Hallowell. He suspected that it was him all along, but didn't bother to tell anybody else. The man thinks he can do things himself, but he's a politician, not a soldier.
Major Hallowell. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. I didn't know he had gone freelance. Intriguing.
The ambassador wanted to see if he had a price list, if memory serves. And if he sees Wrighton start to write this down, he'll actually, pull out the gun and point it at him if he starts writing that down. That remains off the record. And does he stop writing it down, I guess would be my question to Wrighton.
Wrighton is writing down as much as possible. He's shorthanding everything he can.
He'll kind of, if he's like down in his notebook, he'll kind of, you know, tap Wrighton with his leg. And you'll see a gun pointed in your face. Off the record about the mercenary stuff. About my ambassador wanting to buy him.
Oh, yes. No. Of course. We wouldn't want that information getting into the wrong hands, of course. I understand that, but you know.
I reach my hand out for the notebook.
And he just goes ahead and kind of flips it closed and starts to tuck it away and go, shall we continue on?
I'm going to look over that later. And, well, I'll proceed forward.
Honestly, I'm now just so curious about what the fate of that notebook's going to be. But let's proceed. You head down into the burning valley. It's actually more cinders at this point. Yeah, it's like so Elspeth, when you were last here, there's a dig site, and you had a lot of people who had started setting up shop here because they knew that this wonderful peace ceremony was going to take place, where they were going to exchange hands with some artifacts, and basically try to get a settlement finally between the British Empire and the Enotrian Empire, so that perhaps they could stop killing each other. Now, all of these tents have been look like burnt to a cinder. And the way in which it looks like it's happened is kind of weird as well. It's just, there's something odd about the way in which everything is burning. And again, like I said, it's the fires have mostly, they're not like really big at this point. It's a lot of very individual little fire at this point, but most of these tents, there were small little structures, carts, vehicles, things out here. They have been kind of they're now like burnt out husks, as though. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what looks odd about it? What?
I think I actually am going to call for notice rolls from folks who want to get more details about this in particular.
Should I add my +2 to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see, I'll roll notice for fun. Why not?
Okay.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. So Dimitri got
Wow. Nice.
3 raises, but everyone succeeded. So what everyone notices further about this is that it's kind of like there is, you go in and you burn something down from a structure down from the inside. That kind of looks like what this is. As though someone basically, but it's just done so efficiently, as though everything just got systematically burned to the ground. Except for, like I said, husks of, structures, remaining vehicles. What Dimitri's going to notice further in that, because of what pieces remain, you can see this. This is really weird. Because, So, recently, folks have been playing around with these things they call flamethrowers. And you have seen them used before a little bit, or you've heard about them used. You're an actor. You've not been. I don't think you have. Do you have any military background at all, or is it? Or are you just?
Oh, I only have any remote skill in shooting because I shot prop guns before. So it's like.
Yeah. So, like, you have. I think so. So the way that you've heard about this, is that. Like, you've seen kind of what folks do with... You've seen what a flamethrower does because there was a stage show that incorporated one. And you saw kind of what the pattern was like. And so the weird thing is here, it doesn't look as though someone went up to each structure and used a flamethrower. It kind of does. But with the 3 raises, you're able to sort of figure out... And perhaps you can also help me figure out how you figure this out. But it's as though someone with a really big flamethrower...
Okay.
Positioned right about where the entrance to the temple is, somehow managed to spray a cone of fire out that encompassed this entire camp. Which should be impossible.
Right. How close are we to the temple at this point?
You are about... You are, I want to say, within... You're within. It's within 1,000 feet.
Okay.
It's, yeah.
Looking
Between 500
at it,
and 1,000 feet.
maybe looking at it from where we are, is there any kind of like, I don't know. Well, I and Dimitri don't know much about like Martian religion. But is there any kind of like, edifice carved upon, like above the entrance to the temple that would depict maybe someone holding a weapon or someone, any kind of like weapon, or maybe somewhere where it looks like it could be plausible that that's where it came from, or.
So since you did get 3 raises, I will also say. It's that well, you're not quite close enough to see certain details, but there is something kind of about the way that this temple looks like it has been built. Sort of it's basically so it's a big triangle with a proper nouns. A porch. What is the temple porch called before you get up this? Just you climb up the stairs to the porch.
It's going to be a fun thing to put into Google.
Okay,
yeah, I know.
Wait. Second floor, first floor, inside, outside. What are you talking about?
Outside the temple, you ascend up the stairs, and then there's this flat bit. Landing. We'll call it a landing.
You mean like the vestibule?
Yes, we'll call it a vestibule. Because for some reason my brain isn't giving me the proper noun right now.
Entryway. I mean.
Yeah, it's like basically an outdoor. Yeah, like a dais, sort of an outdoor entryway to the temple. And you see these 2 kind of pillars sticking up on either side of them. Of the either side of this entryway. With kind of these what look like kind of sort of orbs on top of them.
I see. Miss Dresadia?
Yes.
How involved are gods or religion in Martian life?
It depends on what religion you're talking about. This temple is from a more ancient society, a more ancient religion. Miss Elspeth knows a good deal more than I do, of course.
And he'll turn to Miss Elspeth.
Yeah, yes.
questions about ancient societies and religions.
Oh, what would you like to know?
Is there any god that's particularly involved with fire here on Mars?
No, but there was a king, I believe. As a matter of fact, the professor just recently uncovered an artifact, a staff of Vulcan. I believe that right before the king's reign ended, or somewhere around there, right before that era of the civilization seemed to disappear, there was mention of a staff, the staff of Vulcan, where the king was able to command the obedience of all of his subjects through the use of the staff, and that those that disobeyed him, fire was rained down upon them.
Well, then, that might have had something to do with this. Do you know what the staff looked like?
No, I do not. But I do believe it is in the professor's possession, which is never a good thing because we do try to keep those things out of his hands.
Well,
and she's still walking. She's talking to you over her shoulder and still walking.
Yeah. I'll keep pace, and it's like, well, we should probably go a little bit faster then, shouldn't we?
Indeed.
Yes, well, gentlemen tend to wear more sensible shoes than the women's fashion. Walking through loose sand is difficult in skirts, and she's got her skirt hiked up, and she's throwing these, boots.
And you just have Dressadia standing next to her in like these long, loose, flowing skirts that are very much not the fashion of Victorian England, and they're very almost like a caftan, sort of. And it's like, well, there's your problem. Shoes are always. Why do you wear shoes? Doesn't it affect your ability to function?
No, generally it's frowned upon to go around barefoot. Something about showing one's ankles and feet is indecent. Men.
Why do you let them dictate any such things? She's just following along with you.
Well, it's a long story. We'll have tea, and maybe spill a little. And Professor.
So you call out as you're approaching the temple, and a figure appears in the entrance. A man who is dressed in the uniform of a British Army officer. He steps out. He looks kind of bedraggled. He's not wearing his helmet. You can see the first thing, because he comes out face first, is you can see that he's got what looks like red. He's painted some of his face red.
Or maybe it's blood.
As he steps out, you see him also carrying what looks like a staff.
Oh dear.
That looks pleasant.
Now, you will, I think you'll all recognize who this is. This is Colonel Llewellyn Oakes.
Oh.
And, he will step out with his staff and just sort of looks down at you all sort of severely.
I'll just kind of lean over and whisper to our comrades as he's kind of looking down at us, like, if we need to fight him, you do have guns, right?
2. But the staff is the bigger deal, and I hate Englishmen.
Excuse me, Colonel. I'm looking for Professor Eddington. I don't suppose you've seen him. I'm rather concerned about his well-being.
He's kind of stepping forward. He's coming close to where the middle is, but he hasn't quite stepped to the middle of the sort of vestibule platform thingy yet. But the staff itself, as you get closer, looks an old artifact made of something that looks like it's perhaps somewhere between metal and stone. It has segments. It's kind of segmented, and the top forms around some kind of what looks like there may be some kind of crystal inside that catches the sun's light and flashes.
Oh.
And kind of glows. And he steps forward. He says, and he just sort of narrows his eyes. Miss Hunsford, is it?
Yes, you must be Colonel Oakes. Oh, I'm so relieved to see you here. Can you tell me, is the professor all right?
He's inside. He's fine.
Oh, good. I must go check on him. And she's just, again, she's well aware of the danger he's presenting, but she's not going to let him. And again, she just kind of picks up the skirt and very ladylike in a straightforward manner, just continues walking forward to go up the steps.
He says, before you approach, I must know that I must have you understand that we shall probably not leave here alive.
Oh, well, I've already survived one airship crash. I'm sure I'll be fine.
And he's just sort of like, are you apparently carrying anything that would appear to be a weapon?
No, she just has, all he can see is that she has a satchel across her chest hanging from her hip. And it would not be apparent that she has a derringer in the pocket of her skirt because Victorian skirts.
I feel as though a persuasion roll is in order here.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
You do have 3 bennies if you.
Yep,
if you
I think I'm going to spend a Benny here.
Okay.
I think I'm going to spend a Benny here.
All right, so you got to reroll. Okay, you got a raise. He's like, all right, you can come in, because you are one of us.
Well, thank you, Colonel, but honestly, in case you haven't noticed, it is quite hot out here. The sun, and it's just, I don't think it would be healthy for any of us to be outside in the sun. You know, the old saying about, oh no, it's probably not a good idea right now. And she just reaches behind, she's got her hand and says, come along, it'll be nice and shady inside. After all that trouble with the ship.
Yes, that was quite unpleasant. And Josadia just kind of walks straight up next to Elspeth.
And he's so if Drazadia is coming up, he's going to just sort of looking at the both of you. What do you want here?
Well, I'm here as part of the diplomatic corps. Diplomatic community.
Ah, the festival has been cancelled.
I'm not part of a festival. I'm just a diplomat's attaché. And this is my dear friend Elspeth.
I know. There will be no peace.
That keeps... No.
You must understand. It's not possible.
With Englishmen, the Germans, the French, or the Japanese. Or the Americans. With Beausoleil and
the Italians.
The Italians.
They are rather absent.
The Belgians are always the problem, as she's...
it's the Swiss. They can't make up their mind. They're French, they're German.
How do I know you are not here to take it from me?
I don't really care about anything except getting out of the sun.
Okay, I need you to make a persuasion roll, please.
Cool. I get a thing with that. 9.
I should probably be rolling for him as well, just
to see?
to
I know.
see, because he's not an imbecile.
No, he's not. As much as we all hate him.
I mean, he is a product of the British public school education system and a colonel in the army, which...
But apparently he's also
a bit of a twit.
fairly understanding, so to speak. He's like,
Does this mean we should come in as well, or?
Yes. Coming out of the sun. Elspeth is going to show us. I'm sure you have tea here somewhere.
Oh, of course.
He just sort of looks at Dimitri and Ryton.
I will say,
eyes.
Dimitri has his tuster very tightly closed as to hide his gun.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Stanislavski and Mr. Ron, I believe, these two gentlemen were kind enough to assist us on our way to the temple. It's such a horrible thing that would happen, and just, my nerves are quite shattered.
He looks at sort of the two of you.
Ryden's had his pad out this entire time. He's just been taking notes.
Oh, you're a journalist.
Yes, sir. Indeed. Mr. Ron, I read an article, the wrong perspective.
All right, then come inside. I have much to tell you. And he will turn and he will walk back into the temple.
Can I hit him over the head with the revolver?
Oh,
now
God.
is the time to...
As he turns around.
Now is the time to... So you're trying to surprise him.
Yes.
So this
Pistol
would be...
whip that bitch.
So we must begin with stealth to see if you can get the drop on him. If you
Cool.
succeed, and you need to succeed very well with this, then you will have the drop on him.
Okay.
So we are right up next to him?
You're almost there. Yeah, you've been climbing the steps this whole time.
Yeah, I would wait until we're right there next to him to do this, but
Yeah. So
okay, let's see if this works. That's an
Okay.
11.
all right, I'm gonna go ahead and I have to roll his notice.
This guy can't notice anything, apparently.
Okay, you have the drop on him. What that means is that you're going to get +4 to your attack and damage that you're going to get here, and if you succeed well enough here, you will knock him out.
Okay.
So you're going to go ahead and make a fighting roll.
Remember how we made fighting?
Oh, that's
the
right.
set?
That's the one little problem here with hitting people on the head.
It's gonna
You have to
shoot
hit
him.
them.
Yeah, I know. That's gonna be a problem. Damn, I should have just shot him.
You do still have
well.
bennies, but
Yeah, I do.
we'll
I'm
have to-
gonna save
as
them
long
to
as you
see if
don't
I-
roll snake eyes, you can keep trying them. But we'll have to see what happens. So this is
Okay.
the
Oh.
okay. You got a 6. You got a success.
+4 is 10.
+4 is 10. So he's gonna have a he's gonna have a toughness probably of about 5, and so yeah. So you hit with a raise. So you're gonna get an extra die of damage.
Okay.
In addition to the +4. So you're basically, it's like a club, so it's going to be your strength die
Okay.
plus a d4
A strength die plus a d4.
and plus a d6.
Okay,
And
so
you
2d6.
add those all together.
So I'm rolling 2d6 plus 4.
No, 2d4 plus a
Well, what's your
what's
No,
okay,
my
what's
strength
your,
is 6.
Your strength's a d6, so yeah, you're going to roll 2d6, a d4, and add 4 to that total.
Plus 1d4, and then add 4 to the total of this.
Yeah, and these all
So
explode
that's
if you happen
5
to.
plus 4 is 9.
Okay. Now, do you want to reroll that?
Yes.
Because
Yes, I do.
Benny's also can be used to reroll damage in the the new version of Savage Worlds.
Okay, cool. Because I haven't spent any of mine yet.
Yeah, you can feel free if you would like to reroll that, and you always get to keep whatever's highest, whatever of your rolls.
Okay. 14.
That's considerably better.
God.
And you got a 6, which means you get to reroll.
14. Yeah, 14 plus 4, so 18.
18. Okay. Plus you get to reroll and add that 6. So you get to roll another d6.
So
Jesus.
Oh crap. Okay.
18 plus 6 is 24.
Keep going.
Oh,
Remember that silver dagger to the face?
28.
Yes, I did.
So is your objective just to knock him out here, or do you want to, or are you trying to slay him?
She's gonna render him unconscious because she doesn't know if he's a problem or she would render him unconscious. And then
Okay.
if she needs to, she could step in.
You've got him. You've totally got him. You could kill him with that amount of damage.
She's not.
Just,
Um,
I was gonna
She
say,
doesn't want
Go
to
ahead.
kill him. She doesn't want to kill him. She just wants him out, and then she's
Okay.
gonna tie him up.
And I mean,
take
you know,
the-
he
and
has.
just-
He conceivably, he's a wild card. He conceivably has bennies as well, but that's a lot of damage. So we're not going to bother with soaking anything. You get him. You knock him out completely. This is also having the drop. So regardless of how much damage he's taken, you know, he's out. He's out cold.
as he
and then-
crumples, Elspeth leaps for the staff.
Yeah. Then she turns. Then she turned to look at the two gentlemen and be like, I think you might want to check the door first.
Okay.
And do you have a weapon?
Who is she speaking to?
Whoever. Both of you.
Okay. Dimitri just pulls out like a small revolver. I mean, I have this, but... So, yes.
But I'm afraid I left my rifle on the ship.
Oh, here, you can borrow this one. And she'll hand you the revolver as she pulls a derringer out from one of her other pockets.
I turn to him when he says rifle. I'm like, why would a journalist need a rifle?
If I had to explain that, you would wonder why I was a journalist.
Because sometimes people take things the wrong way.
It was a gift from an American friend of mine. I covered a story.
If you say so.
Americans just have them. That's just how it works.
You go to Texas, they just give you a gun there.
Yeah. At the border.
Yeah.
They grow them on trees, you know.
Yeah.
You pluck one, you give it to a friend.
So you head inside the temple. And,
I stopped to tie up the colonel.
Oh
and
yeah,
Elspeth has the
absolutely.
staff.
You get him tied up. Inside the temple, you find there are about half a dozen people who have similarly they're just sort of sitting in the corner, kind of terrified. And among them is Professor is the
Eddington.
professor. Professor
Professor
Eddington.
Eddington. Yes.
And they're basically sort of looking up. There's an altar, and you see basically it's there's very intricate carvings on the walls of a bunch of things, and a number of artifacts laid out very carefully on a couple of tables that they set up in here, and you just sort of. Eddington is slowly going to stand up. He's
Elspeth just reaches over and holds out a hand for him and helps him up to his feet.
How did you get?
Really,
How'd you get past
Professor?
Oaks?
She hit him really hard, and I point over to Dracedia.
Oh my goodness!
Because
interesting.
certain gentlemen tend to underestimate the female species, sir. And it's really, I cannot leave you alone for more than 5 minutes, can I? The trouble you've gotten into. And she's got the staff kind of very casually tucked around, you know, she's kind of carrying it. It's such a bother.
He used that to slaughter everyone.
I presumed as much when we saw the tents burning.
We should
He saw the thing and
probably-
I told him what it was and he snapped. It's like
Well,
it started
you're not
mumbling
supposed
something
to-
about the taking of Certus Major, as though he's still holding some sort of grudge from back then or something, and that it's just rather lost
Professor,
it. He started
if I
rambling.
may. I am an actor. I'm humble when it comes to areas like this, but I feel like we should put that back where it belongs and make sure that it doesn't get taken again. Because you saw what... Is he the
Mr.
only person that's alive in here?
No, there are like about half a dozen more people that were involved in the dig.
How many dead bodies are there?
Inside the temple, there are none.
Okay.
Outside the temple is another matter entirely.
Yeah, and many of them were burnt beyond recognition. So...
Mr. Stanislavski, really, it's not up to the professor. You really shouldn't ask him questions like that. I believe that this would be best going to Ms. Dresidia and the ambassador here. It's much more their bellowing.
This particular item I wasn't aware of. I'm not here for that purpose. Although I'm sure if we arranged it correctly, we would do something with it.
You said it comes in segments, that it's a segmented staff.
Yeah.
Elspeth has already started taking it apart.
Yeah, you can. You totally just
Yeah,
twist and pull.
she's already started taking it apart and putting pieces
the moment
into her
you
satchel.
start doing that, the crystal stops glowing.
Yep. As she's been talking all this time, she's been taking the staff apart, and putting it in her satchel, and just,
Yeah, it just slotted it in, and fire poured out of the thing, and it just tore up everyone in the camp and all of his men, and it just
well, yes, that's the staff of Volcom.
quite.
Yes,
It was quite remarkable, but very, very, very bloody.
Yes, quite. Let's get you some tea, Professor.
Would be a good idea. Thank you so much, Elspeth. I'm so glad you're here.
It's all right, Professor. I promise we won't leave you alone again like this to deal with this.
And I feel as though we're probably going to be ending this on a cup of tea.
I mean, it could have ended much more violently, and
It easily could have.
but Tracedia decided to pistol whip a bitch,
Yeah.
and then
And there we are.
it's like I feel like that was supposed to be a dangerous boss fight, and then just she pistol whipped the dude real hard, and then it
fine,
was
yeah.
over.
I was really just
Elspeth
curious.
is going to
what
make
was
sure
going
that the
on.
professor sits down with Mr. Ron and let the professor just talk. Mr. Ron, look at his article.
Indeed. So what we're going to see is that basically this is things are sorted out after a period of time. When the Enotrian ship gets here, and there are quite a few ambassadors already here, so they have a nice chat. Apparently, it will come out that, or at least it will be theorized, that the Germans didn't want peace per se, so they might have hired they might have hired Hallowell to try to gum up the works on the one side. But what no one was counting on was that Oakes would lose his damn mind when they found the staff, and would pretty much decide that he wasn't done fighting his part of the war. To even after they won and took Certus Major, so they have they will lock up Oakes. They will and. What actually happens to the staff? Who knows? It's in pieces now, and we shall have to see. Perhaps they end up in different places. We don't know. Perhaps they end up in a warehouse with all the other things, Ark of the Covenant and everything. Or perhaps they end up in a similar place on Mars. It is hard to know, but I feel as though this tale, for now, is come to an end here on the Red Sands. So thank you all very much for playing. we are this delightful little thing. This is my first ever time trying Space 1889 in any flavor. And, of course, I picked the Savage Worlds version because that's the rule set that I know. But I like the world, and I think that I'd like to delve into it further at some point because there's a lot there. But we're going to go ahead and go around and do our outros. And we will feel free to say where folks can find you and any thoughts you had about this session. And we will start with Rock.
Hey, thanks for having me on the on the show again, Jim. Always have a great time here. Good games, good people. It's a blast. As far as where you can find me, I'm usually on Twitter or Discord or anywhere as Rock and Roll. I show up on different places, playing games, having a good time. I like this. I'm still learning Savage Worlds, so every time I get to try a new setting with it, it's a great time to learn more about the system. And it was cool being able to play with with everybody here, and I had a great time.
Very cool. Thank you very much for playing with us. I really liked I liked that you went for a journalist. It was very interesting perspective to go on. And now we are going to go around to Spencer.
Okay. Yeah. Going into a game that was set in an age of Victorian space travel, which I haven't really delved into before. I was a little unsure of how it was going to turn out, but it turned out being a ton of fun, and I loved doing it. You can find me on Twitter at SpenceTheOldTaco, and yeah, it was a ton of fun. I might have to delve into this world of Space 1889 a little more, and maybe try and run it myself someday. It seems like a ton of fun.
It's very cool. I like. I'm liking the setting the more that I see about it. But thank you very much for coming and playing.
Yeah.
And now over to Kat.
Hey, I'm Kat. I'm at Cleric of Cord on Twitter, and when I'm watching my friends play games on Twitch, I like to play games on the internet with my friends. And this was a blast. I love this. Spence, nice to see you. Rock, it's nice to be able to put a face to the name again. D, always a blast. Jim, I will see you on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes.
Yes. We still have to talk about that game.
Yeah,
too.
we do have to talk about that thing. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the thing we got to figure out.
Plotting and planning. Yes. This was fun. Steampunk Victoriana? Is that a genre? I think it's a genre.
Victorian steampunk?
Love it.
Yeah.
I love this. This was great. There's always that certain type of English lady who just very quietly and very demurely takes charge because they just ignore everything. They know that the men around them are twits, and so they act in that very Mary Poppins. So getting a chance to play that was a blast. I love that archetype, and the system is interesting. I like this. I really like this. I like this system. I need to know more about Savage Worlds, and this is fun. Thank you, Jim, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for playing. Yeah.
And I will never get over Right and Wrong. That was chef's kiss. Beautiful.
I think it's going to take us all quite a while to get over it, but luckily I have vodka. Where was the vodka? On my refrigerator this whole time. That's where it was. We've solved the mystery.
How dare you?
Why is it on the refrigerator and not where it belongs in the freezer?
That's an excellent question. I'm not used to buying vodka very often yet, but I'll ask it the next time I open the bottle. Why didn't you stay where you're... Who knows? But before I begin interrogating my vodka bottle, let us move over to D.
Hey y'all, you know me. I'm at Deirdre Dunlin on Twitter or Prexgorth as Meophoria as you see me around Twitch. I had so much fun with this. Thank you, Jim, for playing with me with this. I love this setting. It's been a while since I got to play, and I just love this kind of drama. All the high drama, and I love creating fun and different characters with them. But as for me, you can find me Tuesday morning on my channel, which we are doing we're calling Classics on Twitch, live dramatic readings of classical plays, both Shakespeare and ancient Greek. Tuesday we're going to do is presenting Othello with Academic Foxhole, Love Lindy, the Opera Geek, our dear friend Pope, and me. We're going to be doing a presentation of Othello. Wednesday is Twelfth Night. Thursday is Sophocles' Antigone. Friday is Richard III with some people that I know who might be here. And then next Tuesday we're going to do Phaedra, and Kat will be joining us for that one. If you can find, I posted on my Twitter, but you can also look it up on my page, Twitch page, that we clipped Kat playing drunk Hercules, which is great because that's what everybody needed from last week. But as for the games that I play on Wednesday you can find me on Tales from the Grim as for Witcher, Family of Wraiths. Some very interesting things happening there. And then Thursday, we're back with Dragon Age over on Wandering DM. Gonna go find Anders, and Fenris is the Inquisitor. There are so many things going on in this game. It's just all the juicy details. And then Friday over on Wandering DM for some cyberpunk fun. And Saturday, we are at the penultimate episode of the Vampire the Masquerade game that I run on Wandering DM, Vampire Nightfall, set in New York. And things are almost done with this chronicle. We'll see where the story takes us next. But always check my Twitter because I post where I'm going to be. And I can't wait to tell more stories with my friends and drop syphilis on Jim at random points in time.
There's no escape. There's no escape. Folks, when you try to use programming metaphors and try to apply them to popular culture, be careful. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, who am I? I'm Jim. You can find me at OtherDoc on both Twitch and Twitter. My website is jimyesthatjim.com, where you can find my Geek Observation podcast and links to my various other podcasts, audio dramas, writings, and such. I've got links down below to my website, Twitter, YouTube channel, and some fiction and games I've been working on, along with links to game signups and applications to join our Discord. So in about a little under an hour, we've got our regular Dark Matter campaign happening here. Ghosts of Saltmaw. It's Ghosts of Saltmarsh in space. And hopping over to Tuesday afternoon, we will be continuing with Alas Vegas, which is a tarot-driven round-robin game scenario where so different GMs or dealers, and we're going to have Katie in the dealer's seat next time. And so I'm actually going to be playing because I have no idea what happens next. I got us to a point, and then she's continuing. So we're going to be playing that. And then Wednesday night we have our regular Masks campaign, where many delightful things I'm sure are getting ready to happen. Then I believe Thursday morning you may see me on something that you have been hearing about recently. Perhaps also on Friday, if one thinks about it.
Yes, Thursday and Friday. Thursday and Friday. It's the... There will be lots of dukes for Jim to talk to himself again.
Yeah. It's good when people understand and want to make use of the many voices in my head. It's very good. So there we are. It gives them something to do. It keeps them from yelling at me. That's always good. So I'm very much looking forward to reading both Sophocles and Shakespeare again this week. It's so much fun. Then on Saturday evenings, we have our Invisible Sun campaign. We didn't do it last night because there's a lot of stuff going on. but hopefully we'll be doing it this coming weekend. And then actually, 1 week from today, normally we have one-shots. This week from today, we're actually going to be doing an Invisible Sun development mode session. Primarily, I think, with people who are not actually in the main campaign. These are other characters in that world. But there will be more guests, basically, coming in and playing their Invisible Sun characters, and I can't wait to see what happens. So that's happening 1 week from today. So what do we have happening for sign-ups? Well, right now sign-ups are open for a couple of short campaigns that are happening soon on this channel. We have sign-ups for The Sprawl going on, which is powered by the Apocalypse. It's Cyberpunk. And guest GM Brian is going to be coming in and running it. That's going to be starting in mid-April. Sign-ups are open until April 1st, Wednesday, April 1st, if you want to get in on that. And we also have sign-ups open for a next month's mini-campaign that I'm going to be running Tuesday nights, which is going to be Monster of the Week. That, again, is powered by the Apocalypse. It's sort of the supernatural monster hunting genre. So the sign-ups for that end Monday, March 30th. So basically you got a week if you want to sign up for either of those. I'm going to also soon probably start throwing in sign-ups for some of the one-shots happening next month. And so we've got that to look forward to. We have a game called Something Is Wrong here to look forward to, which is a very sort of a Lynchian game I want to dig my teeth into and try to figure out how to do it on a stream. So that, I think, will be both challenging and fun, so we're going to get to it. If you want to sign up for anything, you go to down below to RPG sign up, or go to jimyesthatjim.com and click on Game Sign Up. As always, beginners are welcome. So when we hit the end card, I'm going to raid a friend of mine. They're doing a bit of Ravelry, but they also do some degree of role-playing games, and they're into other nerdy stuff. And I just wanted to go and give their channel a boost. Nuchtas. She does also pop culture podcast, things of that nature. So we're going to go say hi to her. Feel free to come along and say hi to them with us if you are so inclined. That again will be when we hit the end card. In the meantime, folks, thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and I will see you all of a sudden. Farewell.